Hey everyone, happy solstice. Those of you closer to the Arctic, happy winter solstice, and those closest to the Antarctic, happy Cancer season, right? Good old summer solstice. Okay, the most and the least, right? So basically this video, I just want to give a little breakdown of what tarot cards actually relate to Saturn and to Capricorn, because it's such a prominent shift, okay? Basically, the situation is this, and we sort of deal with Capricorn every year this way. Like, we start to assess it, right? And because we base ourselves on this Gregorian calendar, we take it as, oh, the year's ending in, you know, a week. I got to get my whole life in order. What have I done this year? You know, like, what are my new goals for the new year, etc. Because of course Capricorn is about, well, it's an earth sign, so it's about health and the body and how much money do I have, and the practical matters, right? Like, now all the holidays are done, how do I deal with these other parts of my life? Now the thing is about Capricorn, and I'm no astrologer, so and I'll give you my resources down below. As for their resources, in truth, I didn't check into that, and I probably should, because that actually gives you a lot of information to where things are coming from. But because that's another part of Capricorn, which we'll discuss. But what I wanted to say was, Saturn hasn't been in Capricorn for 30 years. So basically, for those of you who have been alive longer than that, it's actually really amazing that it's like, how much have you learned from whatever was going on then that was the issue? In a way, is like, dad coming back to check on the kid to make sure that you are doing well in your life, okay? That you figured that out, that you assessed those shadowy parts of yourself, okay? Whatever caused those shadows within you or what have you. Not because you, again, can ever remove your shadow self and only be this ultimate light. I mean, I suppose you could get to that 1,000 lotus inside of your mind, you know, in the center of your being, perhaps. Seemingly it's possible if we write about it, but that's another story. So that's really interesting if you think about that. What was happening 30 years ago? Okay. And what are some other notes that I wrote down? The Saturn is called the wise elder. He also represents the breath in, and that's why Jupiter is the breath out. It's like this yin and this yang. In relation to that, this is pretty trippy too. So of course, like, and I'm sure some of you have heard of this cosmic egg, which I only recently found out about, but I did know about this other sort of egg situation where the yolk is the gold, and then the embryonic fluid or whatever that's holding its form is silver. It's the feminine, right? So we have the masculine, and then the feminine, and then the shell. And actually Saturn sort of in some ways can represent walls and boundaries and, you know, restrictions, but again, it all depends how we look at things, how we take that. Okay, now, and that's also interesting too with the whole, whether you're in a place on this plane where, you know, if you're in Australia, then the sun is closer to you, and then if you're towards the center, like where I am, the sun is farther away. It's winter here. Okay, so that's also the yin and the yang. Because in truth, we're in winter. Where I am, we're in winter, so we're in like this silvery sort of sack. You know, we're like waiting. You know, that's where that hibernation comes in, right? And so we have to remember that, and this always, Excuse me. I always wondered about that and a bit too, like, because the zodiac signs supposedly don't change per hemisphere. I mean, I don't believe that we live in a ball, so there's no sphere. It would be like spatially speaking. But either way, regardless of what model you believe in or have researched, the masculine and feminine is ancient and is intertwined into everything. It's the process of basically the expression of balance, okay? And so what I've read about is Sophia, this Queen Sophia, which I think is so shitty that we gave that fucking transhumanist fake robot chick in Saudi Arabia citizenship, a robot, and named her Sophia. Like, that's ancient. It's like how in the States we call it ISIS and like make it so bad, but that's like the fucking mother goddess of all. It's trickery, okay? That's part of this devil card that we also need to come to understand. But what I was saying in a more positive way is that Queen Sophia is the silver, and Saturn is sort of her lover, or something. There's something along those stories, and that's actually what makes the DNA strand, or so they say, like, that connects all of our chakras or what have you, this energy thing, and then that's why the crown chakra, like in the tarot card, in the tower or whatever, is gold, because that's this masculine, like, expressive, external energy, okay? But we need the silver to come back in. So there's something about understanding the process of taking care of yourself, okay? Capricorns usually need a little bit more sleep than other people, especially if your moon is in Capricorn. I mean, to each their own, but rest, take care of yourself. You can go slow and steady. There's no need to rush or exert energy during this time. It's not about that. Okay, so Capricorn is what it's basically, this solstice, what it's asking us, these transitions are about what do we want in, Saturn's going to be in Capricorn for 2.5 years. What do you want in 3 years? What do you want in a year and a half? Where do you want to be? What do you want that to look like? Okay. One last thing that I think is fascinating, Saturn's going to be in Capricorn until mid-December 2020. I think it's the 16th. But it stays in Capricorn that whole time, except for one day. It goes into Aquarius on July 1st, 2020. Isn't that fascinating? Just one day. Maybe it's like prepping itself, because after it's done with Capricorn, it goes into Aquarius. I don't know if that's when the age of Aquarius starts. I hope not. I'm a little intimidated. Now, cards that represent. Why don't you come down with me here? Cards that represent Capricorn, okay, or Saturn. Can you see these? Oh shit! Is the battery gonna die? I'm bummed out. All right, maybe I'll do the tarot part after, but. So basically, we have it's interesting, there's 3 earth, 2 fire, 1 water. This is obviously, this is the devil card in this, which represents Saturn, although that's not what Saturn looks like, and that isn't what a star looks like. Which I think is interesting that this is called a fool. I mean, stars are energy, and I also put judgment here. I feel like that's important to this process, okay? And then the High Priestess ended up on the bottom, which was really great, okay, with the 6 of Wands beneath that. So it shows me that in ways of our consciousness and messages, which, let me see, there was a note about messages. Yes, right here. I think I was supposed to write Uranus and in connection with Saturn and Mercury equals higher messages. You'll be able to send them out and to receive them, okay? And it'll really bring this inspiration and like creative time. Venus is also coming back into will be in Capricorn on Christmas, the 25th of December until the 17th of January. So you're going to be looking at love in like a really practical way, okay? So anything you've been looking at with rose-colored glasses will sort of shift. But this is actually too hard for me to focus this way. But I just wanted to show you that. Okay, so basically these are the challenges for everyone. Okay, and then I'll make another video per sign. Basically, it's the 8, the 9, and the 10 of coins. Okay? That's about hard work. That's about independence. It's about being diligent. It's about being okay with being alone. The 8 of coins is also about being alone. Okay? 8 and 9 is 17. That goes back to the 8, which is about being alone and continuing to work on your craft diligently. Future forward focused. Okay? Because the end goal ultimately, and the most positive card here, out of the ones that are expressed through this deck anyway, that are ruled by, that have Saturn or Capricorn related in them, is the 10 of coins. Okay, this is usually the 10 of pentacles. It's the family card. It's the family, like, card that has to do with, well, any earth sign really enjoys all these things. There's all the physical things that, like, feel good, that are tangible, okay? Like, the rent's paid, the cars are fine, you have food in the fridge, you know, you got a cozy couch, you have, like, I don't know, scissors and rakes and plants and lamps and books and whatever, have enough money to go on vacation, you know, just feeling comfortable. You're not having enough money and energy to continue to bring that money in, which is just energy again, to continue to sustain this. But now, because that is the ultimate goal, I see that there's stress around home. Okay, in the sense of, this is either something that you're figuring out energetically within yourself, of how you relate your energy and your emotions to home, to family. I see that because this is the only water here, and I put it in the bottom of this triangle, it basically shows me that anything that you have not, it goes back to whether you've been assessing those shadow parts of yourself or not, okay? Which, by the way, anyone who's joined this journey of Opal Oracle since I started in January, thanks. It's so awesome, isn't it? I'm just, it feels miraculous to me, and I'm just so grateful. Thank you. And to thank yourself for being so open-minded, really. So cool. Because we have to work on those parts, okay? Nothing's ever really done. I mean, because even when we clean something up, there's another mess. It's like you do your dishes once, do you really think you're never going to have dishes again? You know? But it's important, whatever you are emotionally grown, emotionally matured out of, okay? You have to physically start I see that there's going to be an assessing within that has to do with stress. Again, home, family, etc. The way we view it when we were a kid, the way we view it now. Again, remember, we're going back 30 years. For those of you who aren't born yet, or it was young, or you're really young, like, ask a parent, or just ask your parents maybe what they were going through, okay? It's all relative to you anyway. But now there's a reason to move physically, okay? Start, and I see that it's 8, 9, 10. It's a slow stepping stone. And it also, there's a need to shift the structure, okay? Also see wherever your Chiron is would be helpful for you to know. It's not about necessarily the sign it's in, it's about the house. So certain the astrologers that I follow say, okay? I see that communication can be difficult in ways of your independence. Okay, with Saturn being in Capricorn, that can be a tough one, particularly any of you who have strong Capricorn positionings, okay, in your chart. Particularly if they're conflictual with fire, okay? And I know that's kind of specific, but that's what it shows me. You probably won't be, you're probably going to be, most people are going to be focused on the practical, okay? And if you're not a practical person, that's going to frustrate you, and that's where this fire will come in and sort of, you know, want to start want to kind of make a mess, is what I heard. And you won't have enough. People aren't going to be as emotional, particularly again if you have strong Capricorn placement. Like you're going to have to constantly be checking yourself emotionally so that you don't get stressed out. Okay? Let's see, these ones just came out. The 8 and the 9 of Pentacles. The 8 and the 9 of Pentacles. So I would say overall these are really strong messages for everybody. And 8 and 9 goes back to 17, and that's the 8. So really what it breaks down to is like, what are you working on? What do you do in your spare time? And how do you see that moving forward into the future? Okay? I see that right now, particularly with these placements and just astrologically speaking, time-wise speaking, because it's all everything's happening for a reason. This sacred hoop in the sky, the wheel in the sky keeps on turning, okay? But I see that it's a very strong period for magic, okay, for manifestation. It really is. It's this silver and gold. It's the will and the action, okay? The silver is the will. It's the internal. The masculine, the gold is the action. Once that happens, then we can really have this manifestation turned into the third dimension, right? Like this internal, again, turning external. But there's certain reassessment that we have to do depending on which way we're going about it, okay? Because, again, Capricorn is very practical, okay? You can't be all willy-nilly all over the place. I love when I say willy-nilly like that, and I always say it's so sassy. You can't be all willy-nilly. Is that like, somebody said Capricorny humor? That's funny. But the thing is okay, we can use our power, right, of manifestation, but the thing is this was in the reverse. So if I want to say that if any of you are going to be using your magic in prayer, your ability of prayer and these are peace lilies, okay? This is about God. Okay? It's about the internal peace within this existence, okay? And the beauty of, like, what is a star? We don't even know, okay? Point being is, during this time, whatever it is that you celebrate and that you put ceremony and ritual and time and energy behind, and will be putting behind as you move forward into the future, because every day technically should be ceremonious and seen as special and beautiful, because it is, because we're alive and we're constantly just here. Point being, part of this test with Saturn, part of this test with the Devil card, part of this test with overall at this time is about, are we going to continue to just get what we want? You know? What do we really view as success? How do we view achieving success in all the different dimensions? Okay? And in that way, are we being, if we continue to be individualistic, if we continue to be selfish and do that darker part of the devil, like those unnecessary surface desires, whatever, you know, is it humming to you? Or is it beckoning you? It's a good question to ask yourself before you make any decision, whether you're eating, whether you're thinking, whether you're, about to go into a place. Like, is it humming to you? Is it humming your name? Is it humming? Is it letting you know that if you go in here, something positive and expansive will happen? Or are you going in here because you are beckoned by something else that's kind of like that you're being manipulated by, even if that is yourself? These are good questions to ask, okay? But to reel back a little bit more, because I didn't finish, is we have to start praying and extending our intentions further than just ourselves, further than just our families, further than just our countries, which I can't believe people ever do that jingoism shit. But seriously, further than whatever, even just humans, just the whole thing. Okay? And I do get that, like, here we'd practice the winter solstice, and then on the outer circle we'd practice the summer solstice, because that's what's making it balanced, right? It's making the yin-yang. It's making the, again, winter is cold, is silver, is sun, is summer, is warm, is masculine. We have to, like, technically we could celebrate the same thing at the same time, but it really is about independently doing that collectively. Okay, but it's not just about us. The solstices would still happen even if humans weren't here. These days would pass. To what the meaning would be to the rest of the natural existence of all, I don't know, I'm not them. And when I did say them, I pictured myself as a bat. I'm a lot of black creatures. Black raven. They do have those ravens in Australia with the white eyes. Don't they have white eyes? White pupils? Anyway, that's what it shows me here. Just making sure the battery didn't die. I guess I'll do an additional one with all the signs, but just be aware of your that you're able to overcome whatever. You'll be able to ground yourself in a really long-term way. Okay? It's an important day to consider what it is that you want. Again, not today, not tomorrow, not next month, not next year even. What do you want in 3 years? And what do you want it to look like, really? You can be abstract in it and still receive the reality, but in that, be aware that, well, A, be careful what you wish for, and B, be really specific. Because we always get what we wish for. It's just, again, maybe just not in the way that we expected. And if we start to become impatient, it's just going to make, I heard, it's like pushing up against a tree is what I heard. Like, the tree isn't moving, okay? You don't need to push, you're not going to move the tree. You're not necessarily going to see the tree grow. You know, you got to continue to just take the diligent steps here, okay? This is technically the start of the last cycle of the year too. I think that's why the Gregorian calendar sort of tweaked it that way. Where, like, Capricorn, you know, Sagittarius happens, which is the last zodiac in the Gregorian calendar, and then of course Capricorn comes before it ends. But that doesn't, Capricorn doesn't represent the end of the year. What it represents is, again, the end of the last quarter. The end of the year would be in March, during the spring equinox in Aries. Because that technically is the beginning of the zodiac. So that's just interesting too. It's sort of like prepping you. You know, it's like Dad letting you know, that you have to be, like, you have to be up at 8 o'clock. But he knows that you like to sleep in when it's raining, so he, like, set the clocks all ahead a little bit so that, you know, you don't feel overwhelmed by this I heard this new experience of responsibility, but it's just a different form of it. But now you're sort of, again, you have this, there's going to be support in it if you're accepting of it, you know? That's also within yourself. Because not only do the coins, the pentacles represent money, of course, coins, and the body, but they also represent the psyche, okay? And your 5 senses. So which goes back to the body, but it's important to be aware and present, okay? It's also really good to, there's a lot of clues in Mother Nature, and regardless of whether you were, again, during the summer solstice or the winter solstice, it's always important to be out. And even though you could be in the summer solstice, of course, this energy still affects you. It's still happening within the heavenly skies, okay? It's just like, whether we see it or whether we feel it, we hear it, we just know it sort of internally, right? Because even if we don't see something, it's like that, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? You know, it's that whole idea. It all goes back to perspective, okay? And I see no malintent, okay? None. We can't use any, or you will, I just heard you will be punished. And I'm not saying, and then I heard the word greed. It's not necessarily about that. You deserve to have, if it exists, then we all deserve to have some of it. Okay? We obviously make the choices and decisions to what it may be. But I see, as long as, again, we're not just focusing in on ourselves, but for the greater good, for the greater good of all. You know, like Bentham's theory, pre-monetary systems, then we shall succeed, okay? And we'll make it through. It will be enlightening, though. It's also going to be a change within people's independence. I just get a little scared when I said that, but that all goes back to you being centered, okay? Because actually there's no swords here either, so it's really important. It's less about your mind during this time, and it's more about your body, okay? Your energy within your body, the internal fire, the internal water, and then how that pushes forward externally. It's not about your head, okay? So you want to stay, in a way, out of your head. You know, you're going to maneuver through Capricorn and Saturn by not being in your head so much, okay? For those of you that tend to go there, okay? They tend to want to hurry processes. Like, no, this is slow and steady wins the race, okay? If you try to rush it, you'll put yourself in a position of stress, and then you'll end up having to walk away from things and start all over the process, okay? But you don't have to, because I'm letting you know. Alright, I will see you soon. Peace out. Thanks for being here. Bye.